Welcome to Talk Treatises. Today, we are cracking open a document that, honestly, is a bit of a historical miracle. It shouldn't exist.
Right.
It wasn't written to be published, it wasn't for you or me, and it definitely wasn't trying to win any awards. It's basically a private, leather-bound scream into the void by the most powerful man on earth.
It's such a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, usually when a world leader writes something, it's pure propaganda.
Oh, absolutely. Look at this war I won.
Exactly. Here's why I'm great. But this text, which we call Meditations,
It was originally titled To Himself.
simply to himself.
Yeah.
And it's the total opposite of propaganda. It's a survival guide.
That's the vibe I got. It felt less like I was reading philosophy and more like I'd, hacked into a Roman emperor's personal journal at 3 a.m.
You're spying on them.
We're spying on Marcus Aurelius. But the thing that hit me right away is the guy sounds exhausted. He doesn't sound like a master of the universe.
Well, that's because his universe was quite literally collapsing around him.
Yeah.
And I think before we get into all the Stoic one-liners people post on Instagram,
Right.
we have to understand the mud he was standing in.
Oh.
If you're picturing Marcus Aurelius in, like, a clean white toga in a sunny Roman forum,
Yeah.
you need to delete that image.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. We're talking late 2nd century, 161 to 180 AD.
Yes. And historians often call this the end of the Pax Romana, the Great Roman Peace.
But it wasn't peaceful for him.
It was a complete nightmare. First, the Tiber River floods. That destroys homes, livestock, leads to a massive famine. Then, his soldiers come back from the east, and they bring the Antonine Plague with them.
I wanted to ask you about that. I read some estimate. Was it something like 5 million people dead?
It was devastating. In some places, a third of the population just gone.
Turd.
Rome was piling bodies into carts every single day. And while all this is happening, the northern borders just collapse. The Germanic tribes, the Marcomanni and the Quadi, they cross the Danube. They actually invade Italy.
No one had done that for centuries.
No enemy had touched Italian soil. So when you ask where Marcus is writing this,
He's not in a library.
far from it. He spent almost his entire reign on the frontier in the country of the Quadi. He's probably writing these notes in a cold, damp military tent surrounded by 6 soldiers, mud, and the smell of death.
That changes everything. It explains the desperation. There's that famous story the text mentions, the thundering legion. What happened there?
It's a moment that just captures the sheer hopelessness. The Roman army was cut off, surrounded by the Quadi, and they were dying of thirst.
No water for days.
Exactly. They were about to be slaughtered. And then, out of a clear sky, a huge storm breaks. The soldiers are drinking rain from their helmets, and the lightning and hail just terrify the enemy long enough for the Romans to break out.
Talk about a deus ex machina.
He saw it as divine providence. But it just shows you, he was living on a razor's edge, day in and day out.
Which brings us to the big question. Why philosophy? I mean, most people in that spot would turn to booze or cruelty.
Or just despair.
Yeah. But he turns to Stoicism. Isn't that a little useless? When barbarians are charging your tent, how does reading a book help?
Because for him, it wasn't a hobby. It was medication. He needed a mental fortress, an inner citadel that couldn't be besieged. And get this, he was a devotee of Epictetus.
Epictetus, the former slave.
A former slave with a crippled leg.
That is just a wild connection. The most powerful man in the world taking life advice from a crippled slave.
It shows you that Stoicism wasn't about your station in life. It was about your mind. Marcus credits his teacher, a guy named Rusticus, for lending him his personal copy of Epictetus's lectures. And Rusticus taught him something else that was crucial. Avoid rhetoric. Don't just try to sound smart.
Don't write tracts. Basically, just be real.
Exactly. That's why the meditations are so repetitive. They're not a book. They're spiritual exercises. He's doing mental reps every single morning just to function.
Okay, so let's get into this mental gym he built. The core idea seems to be this inner citadel, or what he calls the hegemonicon.
The ruling faculty.
Right. And the big idea is that the outside world can't actually hurt you, which I gotta be honest, sounds a bit like denial. If I get stabbed, that hurts.
It does sound like that on the surface.
Yeah.
But he makes a distinction between physical sensation and what you might call moral harm. He says the thing itself stands without doors. An insult, a lost battle, even an injury, those are external events.
They happen to you, but they aren't you.
Precisely. They happen to your body or your reputation. They don't happen to your ruling faculty unless you let them, unless you decide to be upset.
So the pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional.
In a way, yes. He argues your judgment about the event is what causes the disturbance. So if you can strip away the judgment, the story you tell yourself, like this is a catastrophe, and just see the fact,
My leg is bleeding.
then you remove the panic.
This leads to my favorite part of the book, his technique for dismantling luxury.
The stripping method.
It's incredible. He has this way of looking at fancy things and describing them in the most clinical, grotesque terms.
Yes. He's deconstructing the glamour we attach to them.
It's hilarious. He looks at his own imperial purple robe.
The ultimate status symbol.
The ultimate. And he just says, hey, Marcus, don't get a big head. This is just sheep's wool dyed in shellfish blood.
Referring to the Murex dye. Made from crushed sea snails. Smelled awful, by the way.
And he does it with food, too. That expensive vintage wine, just the juice of a grape.
That fancy roast pork. The dead body of a pig.
He's trying to see the base reality, isn't he? We humans, we're storytelling machines. We layer all this meaning onto things.
This car isn't a car. It's a symbol of my success. Marcus is just saying, no, stop. Look at the thing itself.
Let's try to apply this because I think this is where it gets really useful. Imagine we're aliens. We land on Earth. We have zero concept of human culture or marketing.
Okay, I'm the alien. I'm scanning.
We walk into a high-end boutique and see a $20,000 handbag. What do you see?
I don't see luxury or status.
I see.
Canned skin, probably from a cow. It's been treated with chemicals, stitched together with cotton fibers, some little bits of brass attached to it.
And people are going into debt for this.
To the alien and to Marcus, that's insanity. You're valuing the story, not the object.
Okay, what about a Ferrari?
It's a collection of stamped metal sheets, rubber circles, and glass.
Powered by
Exploding dinosaur juice.
Exploding dinosaur juice. That really takes the cool factor down a peg.
But think how useful that is. If you feel intimidated by someone in a Ferrari or you feel jealous, you just perform that mental autopsy. The envy it evaporates. You realize you're envying metal and rubber.
He does this with sex too, which is pretty aggressive.
It is aggressive.
He calls it the attrition of an ordinary base entrail and the excretion of mucus.
I know. And critics say he's a prude or a depressive because of it. But you have to remember his situation. As emperor, he could have had anyone.
Right. Temptation everywhere.
He was surrounded by it. He needed a bucket of ice water to throw on his own impulses so they wouldn't control him. He wasn't saying sex is bad. He was saying, don't let this biological function own your soul.
It's about not being a puppet to your own biology.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so if the stripping method is how he handles objects, how does he handle time? Because there's this really heavy, almost haunting theme of transience in the book.
He was obsessed with the river of time. He's drawing on Heraclitus. No man steps in the same river twice.
Everything is vanishing.
Everything is in flux. The death of earth is water. The death of water is air. Nothing stays still for a second.
And he uses this to just crush his own ego. He has this recurring bit where he lists famous courts from the past. Augustus's court, Hadrian's court.
And he always asks that question. Where are they now?
And the answer is always the same.
Ashes or a skeleton?
Oh.
Or maybe just a name. Or sometimes not even a name.
It's so brutal. He says Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the exact same thing happened to both of them.
They were either scattered into atoms or absorbed back into the logos.
We should probably pause on that word, logos. He uses it constantly.
He does.
To a modern ear, it sounds religious. Is it?
Not exactly in the way we think of it. The best way to think of the logos is like the operating system of the universe.
SQOS.
Yeah. It's the rational principle that governs nature. For Marcus, the universe wasn't chaos.
Yeah.
It was a perfectly ordered living organism. So when he says they were absorbed back into the logos, he means their matter, their soul. It was all recycled by the great operating system to build something new.
So we're just code that's constantly being rewritten.
In a sense. And that brings us to his most, I think, mind-bending idea about time. I call it the 40-year rule.
Oh, this one?
He claims that a man of 40, if he has any understanding at all, has seen everything that has been and everything that will be.
Which sounds completely ridiculous. I mean, Marcus didn't see the internet. He didn't see an atomic bomb.
True. But he isn't talking about technology. He's talking about the human comedy. He argues that history is just one play. The stage sets change, the costumes change, the props change.
But the script is identical.
The script is identical. The characters are all the same.
Okay, let's test that. Let's do a thought experiment here.
Let's do it.
We build a VR simulator. I put on the headset. I'm at the court of Augustus, 20 BC. What do I see?
Okay, you're walking around the marble columns. You see that guy whispering in the emperor's ear, laughing a bit too hard at his jokes. The flatterer.
Right. Okay, now I take off the headset, walk into a corporate boardroom in 2024.
You see the exact same guy, just wearing a suit instead of a toga.
Who else is in Rome?
You see the merchant pacing back and forth, terrified his ship from Egypt is going to sink, and he'll lose everything.
And today, that's the day trader, staring at a screen, sweating because the market dropped 0.5%. The anxious merchant.
You've got the adulterer, the backstabber, the saint, the martyr. Marcus's point is, if you've lived to 40, you've seen all the archetypes. You've seen the whole play.
So why are you surprised when the backstabber stabs you in the back?
It's in his script.
That is actually incredibly liberating and also kind of bleak.
It frees you from FOMO, the fear of missing out. You aren't missing anything. You're just missing another repetition.
It lets you relax. Stop chasing the next big thing.
Because there is no next big thing. Just the same human nature on a loop.
So, if fame is just the clattering of tongues, and we're all stuck in a loop, and we're all going to die and be forgotten, why get out of bed in the morning? Why did Marcus even bother fighting the quadi? Why not just retreat to a villa and drink wine?
And that's the real danger of Stoicism, right? You can slide into nihilism, but Marcus had a safety net.
The hive.
Was it good for the bee? Is good for the hive. He believed humans were fundamentally designed for cooperation.
He has those anatomical metaphors where like rows of upper and lower teeth.
Or like eyelids. We're made to work together.
He calls the universe a single city.
The city of the world. Cosmopolitanism. He contrasts the city of Cecrops, that's Athens, your political state, with the city of God, which is the entire universe.
And if you act against the community,
you become a tumor on the world. An abscess. You're amputating yourself from the organism.
A tumor on the universe. That's a gross image.
It's supposed to be. He's saying your duty isn't to be happy or famous. Your duty is to play your part, even if it's a difficult part.
And his part was very difficult. He has that metaphor for life that I think is just the most accurate thing ever. He says life isn't like dancing, it's like wrestling.
I love that one. Dancing implies choreography. You know the steps, the music is predictable.
But wrestling?
Wrestling is all about stance and tension and impact. You have to be ready for a sudden, unforeseen blow. Marcus knew that every single day, the world was going to try and take him down. A plague, a betrayal, an invasion.
You don't dance through that.
You grapple, you wrestle, but, and this is the trick, you grapple without hate. You wrestle the opponent, but you don't resent them.
He also has this exercise, the view from above. We talked about the alien with the handbag, but this is like looking at the whole earth.
It's a massive perspective shift. He imagines just floating high above the world, and from that height, borders disappear.
Armies look like ants.
Exactly. They're like ant colonies fighting over a crumb. It shrinks your personal drama down to nothing.
Okay, so you're stressed about a deadline or a rude comment someone made.
Now zoom out. View from the moon. You can't even see yourself. Zoom out to the edge of the solar system. Earth is a tiny blue dot. Does that rude comment really matter to the galaxy?
It feels like it matters to me.
But that's the judgment again, you see. The view from above forces you to realize how small and temporary that feeling is. It's not about feeling insignificant. It's about feeling interconnected and calm.
There's one last term we need to define because he uses it for everything. Indifference. Yeah. Saying my health is indifferent sounds insane to a modern person.
It's the most misunderstood part of Stoicism, I think. For Marcus, the only real good is virtue, wisdom, justice, courage.
And the only bad is vice.
Cowardice, injustice, and so on. Everything else. Health, wealth, sickness, poverty, even death.
Their indifference.
Exactly. Now, of course, he would prefer to be healthy. Health is a preferred indifference. But, and this is the key, if he gets sick, it doesn't make him a bad person. It doesn't damage his character. His soul can remain untouched.
That seems like an impossibly high bar.
It is. But remember, he wasn't claiming to be a perfect sage. He was just striving. He argues that death can't be bad because it's a natural process.
Nature does nothing that is not for the good of the whole.
Right. He compares death to an olive falling from a tree when it's ripe. It's just the next stage. Fighting it is like a baby crying because it was just born.
And yet, after all this heavy cosmic stuff, the book opens with something so human, gratitude.
Book 1 is just a beautiful list of thank yous. He thanks his grandfather for teaching him to control his temper, his father for teaching him modesty.
And he thanks the gods for some very specific things, like not losing his virginity too early.
Which for the Roman elite was a genuine concern.
And he thanks them that he didn't get too good at rhetoric or poetry.
That's my favorite one. Thank God I wasn't a better writer.
Why, though?
Because if he'd been a brilliant poet, he might have become obsessed with literary fame. He might have spent his whole life polishing verses instead of polishing his soul. He was grateful he wasn't distracted by his own talent.
That's just profound humility. I'm glad I'm just average at this so I can focus on what actually matters.
It all comes back to focus. The Meditations isn't a book of answers. It's a book of maintenance.
A toothbrush for the mind.
That's it. You don't brush your teeth once and say, great, done for life.
You'd have problems.
You'd have big problems. You have to do it every morning and every night, or the decay sets in. Marcus wrote these notes to scrub away the daily plaque of irritation and fear and ego.
And he leaves us with one final challenge. He asks, what is it that you stay for?
That line always just stops me cold. If the world is all smoke and mirrors and people are just leaves in the wind and fame is a joke,
yeah,
why are you still here?
And his answer isn't to give up.
No, never. His answer is to help others, to accept what happens, to be a fellow worker.
Even if the work is wrestling.
Especially if the work is wrestling.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining this deep dive into the mind of the philosopher king.
Keep your ruling faculty straight.
See you next time.